We're at Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis, and have a great show for today. Who would know better about the weirdness of an area than a person who runs I guess you call it an esoteric, occult bookstore or an occult shop? And I know that when I was in Virginia, there was a place. There was a sort of an occult shop. They had all kinds of crazy stuff there, and I bought the T-shirt. A lot of the other stuff I kind of left. I didn't know how anyone would be able to explain me packing, bones from, a cat or, runes or something. But it was an interesting place. And but Kristie Williams is with us, and she is the founder and the curator of a place called Invoke, which, of course, an amazing store in the Montevilla area. Is that how you say it?
Montevilla.
Montevilla.
But yeah, you can get fancy.
Well, it's because of my bad Spanish that I speak.
And for those that that's an area near Mount Tabor.
Yeah. It's a pretty nice area. They have great pizza and theater,
all that good stuff. But that
hot
volcano
tub place
kind of attracts the unusuals.
Oh yeah, the
itself.
volcano. Yeah, Mount Tabor, the volcano. It's a non. Oh, it doesn't work. It's kind supposedly
inactive.
Yeah, every once in a while you hear a thump. I've heard thumps over at Mount Hood too, and it kind of gives me a.
Well, it was crazy. Just side noting here, there was a show you did a few years ago about the bells ringing. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
And I called you because as you were talking about it, it happened up there, and there was a whole bunch of people sitting up there, and we heard this weird tone bell ringing thing, and people were freaking out. And I was like, "What are the chances of this happening?" While you're talking about it, and I tried to investigate. I have no idea what that noise actually was, but I remember
people
calling you,
hearing bells,
big, loud,
loud clanging bells. Yeah, it was, and I talked about it because I think the Earth does this. I think every once in a while the Earth does something that we are not used to because we're all caught up in our own sophisticated little lives, and every once in a while something that is primal, like the sound of bells or ringing,
to stretch,
and or horns. People are hearing
That's
horns.
What it was. It was the horns.
Horns in the sky, the bells ringing in the sky, and I mean, I experienced that one time, and I thought it was explainable. But still, though, I mean, there's rumbles, there's bells ringing, there's all kinds of things going on the planet. And I've been on this kick lately. I had a friend of mine who said, you need to do a show about Loki, this TV show on the Disney Channel or on Disney Plus. And I said, well, what do I talk about? I said, well, this whole time variant thing, this whole idea that you can, step off the timeline and go into a variant timeline and go into all that. And I thought to myself, well, I've had this theory that there's a guy by the name of Nick Hinton I had on the show a while back, and he had this idea that back in 2012, back on December 21st, 2012, the world really ended. Yeah. And that we're in the middle of this multiverse confusion. Purgatory thing. And I got to reading some stuff. And I know Marshall Barnes, who's a quantum physicist and an engineer. He wants to go back in time. And Stephen Hawking, of course, I had a discussion with him about all this. Yeah. And Brian Greene. Huh. And all of these guys, they're talking about, string theory and quantum physics and quantum entanglements. And the idea that the Higgs boson, when it was found at CERN, was unstable. And if it was unstable, then we wouldn't know that we've been varying in and out of these timelines. Right. And people would start acting peculiar and start doing all kinds of strange things. And I got to thinking about this past couple of days when I was doing the show, thinking there are so many people out there that are living different realities.
Yes.
And, in one reality, people think that Donald Trump's still president. Yeah. In one reality, somebody thinks that this is something or whatever. Yes. And so there are all these different realities. I'm thinking to myself, what if people are living in simultaneous timelines?
Well, absolutely, because there's enough information out there to validate anything. Everything is material. Everything is material here now. And so whatever your belief system is, you can validate that.
Well, and the law of attraction, I talked about that a couple times too, and tulpas or thought processes that are certainly beyond anyone's comprehension, that you can actually manifest things. Yes. Believe they're there in front of you. Nobody else will see them except you. Yes. It's a mental condition or it's not a mental condition, because sometimes those fantastic imaginary friends that people come up with actually materialize things.
Yes, yes.
And you're like, How did that happen?
Yeah, it's all perception.
Yeah.
One person's good news could be someone else's bad news. Like, for instance, I purchased a house in Portland years and years ago, and I felt like it was the house for me. And the people that lived there said, well, God told us we need to just move. We don't know where, but God's been telling us to move. And I laughed to myself, like, how do I, or they know that my God didn't push them out with their God, or my God didn't make them think they're talking to a God that said time to leave because Kristie's moving in. And it's a really warped thought. But sometimes when we wish something or we think about something long enough, like, boy, I really don't want to do that appointment. I hope it cancels. And then you find out they got in a car accident. Like the idea that we have guardian angels. Well, what if those guardian angels don't have, what if some of those angels aren't looking at good or bad as we are? What if they're just like making the results of what you ask for?
What if they're psychopomps? What if they're just waiting for you? What if they're just waiting for you to make a move and they're just going to snatch you away?
Well, we're in a time where I say, really be careful what you wish for and how you wish for it, because things are manifesting very, very quickly.
Oh, and the thing that bothers me the most, and I was talking about this the other day with somebody, is we are thinking about our mortality more and more because of COVID. And while COVID, you can't convince somebody or tell somebody that COVID is 97% recovery. There's a 97% recovery if you're a normal individual with a normal immune system, and you're going to be able to pull through usually. It's the aged, elderly, and those who have comorbidities that are dying. You're hearing about their deaths. Yes. And look, if you're somebody waiting to die, if you have a health situation, it's like, I should be terrified because I've been through a lot with my health. I'm not, though, because it's like you get to a point after so many bouts with, the hooded one, you just say to yourself, whatever's going to come next is going to come next. I've been thinking about that a lot because it's in your face a lot.
Well, there's a beauty in that, though, because you become fearless.
Yeah.
And then you want to make what you have of life to be really meaningful and fulfilling. Mm-hmm. You don't fear death any longer, but it also is,
I fear death.
You fear it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh.
You know why I fear it? Because I think it's going to hurt. That's why I don't want to.
It's
going to hurt. It hurts. It's got to hurt. At least for like maybe a second or so.
The beauty of it is if it hurts too long, you'll probably just disassociate and you can watch from afar.
Suffering sucks. I don't like suffering. It's like getting old is not for pussies. It's like you're getting older and you're like thinking that doesn't work anymore. Why doesn't that work anymore? But knee doesn't feel. I always find myself waking up every day going, "How about those knees, Lewis? What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, you don't need them.
I mean, what's wrong with your knees today?" But the idea of tulpas and thought forms and LARPing. Here's another thing that I find a fascinating topic, because a lot of people don't realize that there are so many people in this world right now. They're involved with something called live action role play, or it's called LARPing, where you take on a persona and you live that persona. If you think you're Superman, you're Superman. If you think you're Batman, you're Batman.
And didn't this just start maybe back in the Dungeons and Dragons? Like, the role-playing games is where it starts. But
people identify as. It's not just you're identifying as a woman, identifying as a man. You're identifying as a bunny.
Anything you want,
a fox,
as a magician, as anything you want, you can role play any longer, and it's become so acceptable. It really feels like we have. You're talking about timelines. We have overlapping occurrences right now of timelines, and people are inviting and bringing that into as they're taking on the idea that they can be more than one. They can be anything or all things.
Superpositioning.
Yeah, and so, and I also think we're in a time where things are really powerful. They're manifesting quickly, and so as people are bringing in all these different characters or aspects of themselves, all these potentialities, it's becoming more and more convoluted and confusing for us as a whole, because everyone is about themselves.
Right.
Not everyone, but for the most part, you're acting out and being who you want to be. And what does that mean? This is off topic a little bit, but I was thinking about, I think about a lot how, we know we can go to Google now and we don't have to type in maybe one word and the algorithms tell us immediately know what you're thinking, blah, blah, blah. And it brings that information to you. And it doesn't mean that it's always to a disadvantage or that it's a conspiracy. What's happening, if you look at it objectively, is that information knows what you want and it's bringing it into form for you. It's manifesting it through the computer. But what we're seeing right now in our real life, in reality, is that when we think it's bringing that forward, like Google. We are living in a world of algorithms and a system that is quickly forecasting, anticipating what it is that we want and bringing it to us.
Well, you heard that the Pentagon now has a new AI system, artificial intelligence system. I was talking about this the other day, where now they are capable of seeing the future 4 or 5 days in advance because of patterns, human behavior, and algorithms. So they know how everything is going to shape the behavior of human beings.
Yeah.
And so what we have here is we have Minority Report. We have what Philip K. Dick talked about when they were able to figure out pre-crime. They were able to know when a crime is about. It's predictable crime, and that's terrifying. If they're able to predict the future like 4 or 5 days in advance, I mean, you don't even need you don't even need people who are like, woo-woo people who do the prophecies. They could just use patterns.
Everything's a pattern. Everything's a fractal. And so with that in mind, what is free will? And do we even have it? Are we in a cycle that's even bigger and been going on for 1,000 years and stuck in that purgatory, for instance? So
right. You bring up an excellent point, because I was thinking to myself, the theory of evolution, you look at evolution, survival of the fittest, that all went away with drugs.
Yeah.
Seriously. Because drugs keep you alive, keep you going longer than you were supposed to. Yes. Like if it weren't for drugs and supplements, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Yeah. It's simple. Because I'm taking a lot of medications to keep
prolongs.
Me alive. Yeah. Well, the same thing with what you're talking about here is that algorithms eliminate free will.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, that we can always say, well, free will's gone. And the reason why is because are people really making conscious decisions right now? Or are the algorithms are you reacting to the algorithms?
Yes.
And are you in a little echo chamber where you're believing everything you're being told by the computer?
Yeah, I call that a cul-de-sac.
That's exactly right.
And it's really easy to manipulate that, because that's when the marketing comes in. And you might, for instance, I try to explain this to people, you might see something come online. That doesn't mean that it's magic or it was meant to be. Right. Because you've also got the algorithms out there that are utilizing that to sell you something or promote a certain thought. And just a side thing, you want to talk about weird, maybe I'm weird, but as I was driving here today, I was trying to write notes in my car while I was driving, which is dangerous. And so, of course, on the dashboard, I couldn't write out the word algorithm because I wanted to talk about it. All I got was Al Gore. And I was like, oh, shit, that dude. It made me think about Al Gore and algorithms and his whole
and who believes that he invented the internet?
So on my way there, I did a little thing on YouTube, and I found a thing called The History of Internet. And they had done a whole research thing on Al Gore.
Do you know where algorithm comes from? There was a movie that came out in the 1920s called Algol. Algol was an alien that came down and gave an invention. Yes. Gave an invention to a man and told him that if he knew how to use it, he could use it to manipulate people and do his bidding.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I was literally all the way here, I was fixated on Al Gore. And so apparently his dad was the head of the superhighway or something, like actual freeway systems or something like that. And his name was also Al Gore. But I was thinking about algorithms and Al Gore. And then as I'm understanding that he put the legislation, he didn't invent the internet, but he brought it all together in a form that it could be introduced and released. And so that was interesting to me. But even more interesting, he seems to have a pretty strong push with transhumanism.
Right.
And
see, you're right. Al Gore did not. You know who invented the internet? Not Al Gore, but you know who invented it? CERN.
Oh, CERN.
The scientists at CERN did.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that weird?
So he brought it to the table.
Yeah, they invented it. He brought it into fruition, and so yes, it's like.
And did that guy have no personality or what? Yeah. I mean, like he's
man, bear, pig,
right? And so I'm kind of stuck on the whole algorithm thing, because really we're living in an algorithm. We're being controlled through algorithms, and because of the time we're in, I think it's been intensified. So I don't know that we can escape that, because I think if we just look around, we're in a giant network.
See, I always picture algorithms to be like snakes. It's kind of like the snake in the Garden of Eden, where all these like snakes are reaching out and they're touching you or they're biting you. And they're bringing you in and beguiling you and putting you in this position where, you make decisions based on the algorithm rather on conscious decisions. And it's confusing to people, because a lot of people think, well, I make my own decisions. Well, you really don't.
Well, and is that funny? You're talking, what you described there is it's electricity, or it's neurons, it's plasma, but it's also come up a lot in the esoteric. You're seeing a lot of Medusa. You're seeing a lot of the snake and the serpent. A lot, and there's a merging of what used to be a lot of the imagery, occult imagery, is starting to look more. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who does beautiful Geiger.
Yeah, Giger.
His work is very transhuman looking, and a lot more of the artwork is starting to look transhuman.
Well, what is a caduceus but a snake wrapped around a pole? Yeah. What it's a healing, or at least it's what the doctors and the magicians used to use, the mercurial changing, the alchemical changing of. Interesting discussion with Kristie Williams, and we'll be back with more. Don't go away. Keep it here on Channel Weird. On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero-friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Para-Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. Kristie Williams is with us. And, of course, when you run an esoteric store, you run a, let's call it paranormal shop.
It's a portal. Walk through the doors.
Yeah. Well, trust me. I mean, when I went through the door, I was constantly, and I was telling you this during the break, every time I'd go in, I'd feel the power coming off of symbols. And the reason why is because I remember reading a book by Jean Baudrillard, which, of course, is the book that we see in The Matrix. It's about simulacrum. And just the idea that Baudrillard, postmodernist writer, said at one time, he said, people respond to symbols. They don't respond to just talk anymore. You have to have the symbolism. You have to have the look. You have to have the presence. And so that would mean wearing some jewelry that would say, for example, this very powerful jewelry like the cross or the Star of David or maybe even a sigil of a pentagram or something like that. It basically says a message of who you are and what you represent. And it's like people have always commented about my ring that Janine bought me, this ring that I was in an Illuminati movie where I was talking about the Illuminati. And so she bought me a ring with the compass on it. And everybody's like wondering if I'm a Freemason. I said, no, it's just my Illuminati ring. I wear it every once in a while. But, and people, it draws attention to you, the Illuminati ring. But, going into Invoke, there are plenty of sigils and symbols and all that stuff, and I'd always feel the power from them. And I made the comment the other night, and I don't think people understand this, that when you're looking at mathematics, and I was talking about the movie Pi. I was talking about the character Max, who meets up with this guy named Lenny Meyer, who's a Hasid, basically a Kabbalist. And he's telling him that every number represents a letter, every letter represents a number. And that's what really, ever since I saw that movie, I've been afraid of numbers and putting them in the right integers to create, maybe even open a portal, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's like I was saying on my show the other night at Ground Zero, I said, you take A, B, C, D, E, F, G all the way down to the letter Z. Yeah. You put that on a blackboard and a child learns to read. Yeah. But you put it on a Ouija board, immediately it's something else. It's because numbers and letters are sigils.
Well, and sigils to me are signatures. If you think about our signature and how you can learn a lot about somebody's signature, and signatures can vary a little bit, from every time you sign, but essentially that is your signature. So sigils, and I feel this way about runes too. I do a lot of work with runes, is that they are their own entities. So you've got older entities, and then you've got the newer ones that might be the tulpas or however, it depends on when they've been programmed or created and how long we've enforced them and with what energy we've fed into that, because everything is a current, everything is a feed, like you're talking about the algorithms. And so you feed that energy, and so they can become bigger and bigger and more. But essentially symbols are the universal language.
Yes.
And the question is how far back does that go?
You don't have to read to have a symbol. And here's something else that's, that kind of, the more we go into transhumanism, you were mentioning the signature and how signature is you. You can tell a lot by a person's signature. Yeah. Those are being eliminated.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it,
we're losing our identity quick.
I was realizing this. I went to Dutch Bros the other day to get coffee. And of course, they have the young girl standing out there. You put your card in, and she goes, "So, how much today for tip?" And I said, $2. And she says, "Okay." And she X'd it.
Yeah.
I didn't sign it, but she X'd it. She says, "This is your signature."
They don't care about signatures.
No. And it's like, so that it's just an X now. I remember back in the day where putting an X for your signature meant you were dumb.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
it's not necessary. And
I've had contracts sent to me where they say, okay, you can sign it electronically.
Yeah.
And I don't have something to sign it, so I just type my name in, and that means I've signed it electronically.
Well, and didn't I just see Kate Brown today say that kids can graduate without knowing how to write?
Yes.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah. Now they don't know how to write, and also cursive writing is being eliminated too.
And so we're losing our personal identity. But isn't it cursive? Curse. Yeah. But isn't it funny too that you could take an image of something, like let's just say a barcode. Let's say we're all going to be assigned a number, and that's our new art, like our Social Security or whatever. If you remove the idea that we have labeled those numbers as numbers and just look at them as lines, now you can see it's just a symbol. Everything, if you stop interpreting it the way we've been conditioned to look at things that have been put into form and just look at them as lines, then it becomes a symbol. And so it's why you can have the simplest of logos, like Target. They started with a big drama with a little dog and his eye and over time they've been able to remove layer upon layer upon layer to come up with just the bullseye. And now they could probably get away with just the dot and the circle.
right?
Which is a pretty universal symbol.
Well, look at the swastika. I mean, when you look at that, it's like swastika once was a symbol of, I guess you could say, planet. It just represented nature. It was an old Indian symbol. And what's funny is a lot of people don't realize is that a swastika on its own is not powerful, at least from a Nazi standpoint. But if you tilt it like Hitler did, or that like Goebbels did, you tilt it and it looks like it's in motion. That's the difference between a regular swastika and the Nazi swastika.
And the first time you have epiphanies throughout your life, and I'm in my 50s now, but I've had the opportunity to know Dave Talbot, who lives here in the area. And
I worked with Dave.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah. And so when he did his original presentation, which, by the way, Jordan Maxwell was at, and Zachariah Sitchin, and I was so young, I didn't know I was sitting in front of two, gods, amazing human beings. Yeah. But in his presentation, I think it was called Remembering the End of the World. The imagery that sticks out for me was the X, which is the four corners of the cross. But when it moves, when it turns, then you get the motion of what you would see as the swastika. Like if you were looking at the hub of a wheel on a car, and the car is not moving, but when the car moves, it starts to take this illusion of movement before it becomes invisible.
Right.
So he had suggested, and I this intrigues me to this day because of the North Star, and I have some dear friends that are really working on this whole idea of the North Star, South Star, and the poles, everything in between. But that if you're looking above and it's an X or a cross and it's in motion, it's in movement, and that is also, it gets into the runes as well. But Hitler used that energy, that power energy, and so I think everything. If you look up to the north, you look at our pole star, that would be the top of almost the top that spins. So everything goes from there all the way through. It's a big, giant toroidal field. And
I was just talking about torsion last night. I was talking about how
it's in everything.
It was a guy wrote a paper, Indiana physicist, wrote this paper, Emiko Pawlowski, I think his name was. And he was saying that there's more indications with the torsion fields and all of this that we may be sitting in a black hole.
Yeah.
And if we're sitting in a black hole, then everything we know about black holes isn't necessarily. And they just found the light that was curving around that proved Einstein correct. So what we're seeing is a wide open door to a multiverse.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most important discoveries in the longest time, because what that does is it immediately turns thermodynamics and Newtonian law in another direction, as well as proving Einstein correct. And in fact, now Google has something called Eureka, Sycamore. I can't remember all the names just are flying by me right now, but they have now something called a time crystal, which I was talking last night with Marshall Barnes, and he said that it's kind of a misnomer, but what they have is they have something that perpetually loops, so it has no entropy.
Yeah.
So what they've basically done, they've created an energy. What do you call it? A device that just basically has perpetual energy forever.
But at the same time, patterns repeat. It makes me think of Westworld. We are in our own loop here. So are we actually entrapped here in a place of purgatory? And we just keep coming back because we don't know how to exit. And that's one of the things I think about, when it comes to death, is, are we spending all of our time here living and not thinking about how we're going to die? Because we may have died and this
many
is
times
the death.
over. Yes.
This is the death.
Yeah.
And so if we don't figure out while we're alive where we're going to go at our death, and we haven't consciously thought about that, we're just going to keep looping eternally and feeding into this big giant toroidal system. Although I do think there's those out there that are trying to completely annihilate and destroy that system.
Well, yeah. And I think that they're thinking that if we destroy it, and if we forget about it, and if we erase it completely, we may be free of all of our past sins, and therefore we won't make same mistakes. But we do, because human behavior pushes you in certain directions. Yeah. Once again, back to the entropy.
Well, because I mean, how much of this is organic and how much is contrived? Like,
we're with the computer, like I said, with the computer now and the algorithms, free will is probably
and if you know the cycles of nature, and that nature is going to have its destruction and its growth, if you know that cycle, you can accelerate the destruction so that you can predetermine what the construction is going to look like. And now we've lost our free will and the organic process that this planet and the system goes through.
I call that nudging God. It's basically, hypnotizing the eschaton. It's like, if you force the eschaton, it will happen. And they're forcing the eschaton. Is what they're doing. When every day you wake up and you hear that people are dying, of a disease that is a 97% recovery rate, and people are freaking out and are willing to just throw their hands in the air and say, I want a risk-free life. You're dumb. There's no such thing as a risk-free life.
And the beauty for them is I look at humans. So when you're a magician, you're working with energy and you're trying to orchestrate or manipulate that energy. We are the energy that the overlords are using on the world stage.
It's an alchemical reaction.
We are getting moved around like little atoms and being rearranged for their outcome. And our ability to manifest is incredible. We don't realize it, and it's being used against us to create a world that's not ours.
We got to take a break. A fascinating discussion with Kristie Williams today on Channel Weird. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
A lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero-friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Parawareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. It's Channel Weird, and I'm Clyde Lewis. Kristie Williams with us, talking, about a lot of interesting, amazing things. So let's talk a bit about, we were talking about algorithms, talking about the realities that the computers are giving us now. Meme magic is something that I've explored too. The idea that just a meme on the internet convinces a lot of people of certain things, even if they're not true. That's basically another form of propaganda and manipulation. But when it gets to a point where, and QAnon is an example of this, when it gets to a point where you have something like a self-organizing collective intelligence, that's what QAnon is. It's a self-contained, organized intelligence that was probably devised by the Defense Department or some other group to get people to, think certain things. When they start living that role, and it's called LARPing, live action role play, when they start living a certain role in a certain, and people are now identifying as other things. It's not just the whole trans sexual.
About sex.
It's not about sex. It's about I identify as a buh. I identify as a bee. I identify as a furry or as whatever. Tell me about that. Are you seeing more and more people into live action role play living lives and identifying as certain, like spirit animals or whatever? I mean, that's something I haven't explored.
I'm seeing, I get all kinds of demographics at the shop. The younger demographic is interesting to me. TikTok has had huge influence in ways that our youth doesn't even understand. And let me give you an example and we get back on the LARPing thing. In every store probably in America got hit with calls for Moldavites. And it didn't take me but a few days and calling other locations to find out it's because TikTok had pushed out some, I don't know what, and all the teenagers wanted Moldavite. And so, and it could be Moldavite helps get rid of obstacles so you can find your true love or whatever. And so sad part, and this is my first experience with TikTok. So you get all these young kids that think they're having original thoughts and they're looking for Moldavites. And that was the first experience. It came up with other items too. Carnelian has been a recent one. So I've been taking that opportunity to let them know that this is not an original thought. I'll say, well, it's funny. I don't have any ever since TikTok put out a big, huge push. And occasionally they'll say, oh God, that's where I heard about it. I don't think our youth realizes the influence that is there from TikTok. With that said, there's a lot of people playing out roles, whether it be Facebook or TikTok or what, it doesn't matter. They're playing out roles of who they want to be or who they think they want to be or think they are and not who they really are. And so as people have created these expectations and these relationships and these online, everything's online, right? With the whole V, I call it the V. I don't even want to give it my energy by calling it anything else. But when the V came up, everybody got pushed into their homes. They got pushed into online. They got separated from one another. It was perfectly prime for any business that's going to survive is going to have to find a way to do it online. And those that can't will fall. It's been a real crumbling and breaking away of those that can't participate in the system to come, which is transhumanism and simulations.
Scarcity.
It's really about simulations. Yeah. And so
metaverse.
Yeah. And so people are bringing that back now as we're all being able to collectively group again for who knows how long. People are bringing back those experiences that they had online of who they wanted to be into our reality. And I'm seeing it more with the youth. What concerns me is you've got like witch talk and there's this huge movement and push working with spirituality and magic and all of these things. And when you start to act out a character, whatever that is, you start to become that character. And so there's one, people aren't grounded like they should be. And so when you're not grounded, you're like a helium balloon just bouncing around wherever it may land. So there's a lot of vulnerability, I think, with our youth in particular with that. But, we've been acting out theatrically, playing out magic. We've been doing that for eons through ceremony, through ritual, through, I mean, just look, the Vatican is still doing it. There's a reason they do it. There's a power behind that. And, you can watch how a lot of these organizations with their theatrics and their ritual work, it doesn't even matter how good the costume looks. It's about the playing out the role and becoming that role. And in doing so, you look at these actors, I think acting is so fascinating. I look at it differently now because these people in Hollywood are, in my opinion, are really truly doing what I call a ride share. They've created a character. They have to practice this character. They have to become this character for this role.
Like the Joker.
Like the Joker. Let's get into that. It's got chills. So they act out these different roles, and the actor has to shapeshift into a new role. But people are doing this online, and then they're coming back into a form of reality, but they're bringing it with them, which is another way that we're seeing these layers and these dimensions and realities overlapping. Because what's true? It's true for them. Why is it not true for someone else? They want people to acknowledge that that's the role they now play. And we're being taught to acknowledge that that's what we see, whether or not it makes sense to us or not. So that's really fascinating. Did we get off topic here a little bit?
No. I mean, you are bringing up the fact that, that they bring along, or they try to be this character, or they identify this character, and that this thought form or whatever it is gets into them, and they become, or they
invited. Or,
I was reading something the other day. There's something called racial identity as well. Did you know that not only do we have people who identify as men or women sexually, that are, for example, males, but identify as women, or women who identify as males, we now have people that identify as certain race.
Yes.
There's the story about that woman who identified as being a black woman for the longest time. She was nowhere near looking black. There was a story I read the other day about a guy who identified as Korean. Yeah. And he went and had an operation, so his eyes were different. Yeah. And because he said that he was a Korean, and that's what he said he was. And he identified as a Korean, so he had the operations done. There are people that go out and they identify as like some demonic character. They get their tongue cut.
Yeah, I know. Tiamat comes to mind, the famous Tiamat.
Yeah.
Dragon.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've seen, I think they were on Underbelly too. He's got a great podcast where he brings in people of interesting character.
Pazuzu Alvarez, the guy that was the Satanist who thought that he was Pazuzu, and he basically died in prison.
And who's to say that they aren't ride sharing or sharing space in their body and their mind with entities, or creating them altogether? Right. Very, very fascinating. And really what I think we're seeing is a breaking down of all boundaries. So overall, intentionally created or not, all boundaries, structures, anything that limits us into a definition is being broken.
I mentioned the Joker, and you said you got chills. I mean, we're looking at the trickster embodying actors like Heath Ledger
it's on the streets.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this time of chaos, as all the boundaries are breaking, and that's the whole thing too with the defunding of the police. What if you look at what the police represent? They represent order and law and consequence, right? They're the system that was put in place to do that. And so as that breaks and the consequence break, regardless of how or why it's happening, you're going to see things that only came out at night start to surface during the day. And what we're seeing now is there's a wild side that's being unleashed, triggered, activated, or and we all have that in ourselves. But for those that aren't grounded and have a foundation, it's becoming easier and easier for them to take those roles of what I call jokers and clowns.
What about vampires? I mean, there are so many. I've been around people who live action role play vampirism, and they get their teeth, filed down.
Yeah,
their
there's
canines.
a whole other topic.
There's a vampires ball that we have here every year.
Yeah.
And it's like,
which
it used
is pretty
to be
phenomenal. It's
it used to be, there was kind of a rarity to say, on my show tonight is a vampire.
Yeah.
But it went from the novelty of being a vampire to, yes, I drink blood. Yeah. I do a ritual. All that.
And who's to say they don't really exist?
Truthfully,
we keep trying to,
or werewolves for that matter. People say, "Well, Clyde, you talk like werewolves exist."
Oh God, we got to talk about Dogman sometime.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. Yeah, Slender Man didn't exist either.
Yeah,
Slender Man was a creepypasta character who immediately just showed up out of nowhere and convinced two girls to try and murder one girl.
Yeah. Well, and isn't it likely that they're emerging through all these portals that are being opened? So if you look at a lot of the New Age community, they're out there opening portals left and right. But how many of these people are learning how to close them?
Yeah.
I'm going to open a gate and let this energy in. Well, how do you know what kind of energy that is?
Right.
Because a lot of the people that are in the New Age community aren't grounded enough to know, to discern what it is they're really dealing with.
This reminds me of the movie The Empty Man. I don't know if you've seen that film. It's a creepy film. I watched it, and it's like so dreary and creepy. But it's like the idea that you can organize this secret cult that can conjure this character, and it's kind of like conjuring Slender Man or some other character. I have to tell you a story that an interview I did with Wes Craven and what he told me about Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that coming up on Channel Weird.
Yeah,
Kristie Williams with us. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
Freddy Krueger.
On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Pair Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. I think, therefore I am. I think I am something, therefore I identify as something. I think I'm a TV guy when in reality I'm a radio guy.
Replace that with I imagine.
I imagine that I'm somebody.
Which is I.
I pretend to be a talk show
Well,
host.
actually, let's break down that word. Imagine. What is that? I imagine. I magic. I don't know. Is there a play in there?
I magic. That's my image.
Yeah,
I think
image.
I am.
Yeah, so I think is imagine.
So the power of the tulpa, the power of the thought form is very important. And I was going to talk to you about, I did an interview with Wes Craven back when I had this magazine I made. It was a B-horror fanzine type thing.
Yeah.
Forrest J. Ackerman I met, and he inspired me to do something like this. I used to hang out at the Acker Mansion when I was working on a movie called Nightfall. It was a vampire film. And it was what led me to be the Toxic Avenger, which is kind of fun. But and I talked with Wes, and we had a little meeting and talked, and he was telling me about Freddy Krueger. And he said to me that when he wrote and produced Nightmare on Elm Street, he said that Freddy Krueger came to him in, how imagination comes to him. And he said that there was all this power that was put into this, this burnt, child molesting, talon gloved, scary creature character. And most original creature characters since, the Universal monsters came along. And he said, but one of the problems he had with Freddy was that once he was on the screen, he felt like he unleashed a meme. He unleashed something that was so real that he could touch it. And he said it terrified him because after Nightmare on Elm Street was released, we started hearing about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. And he worried that the spirit of Freddy Krueger somehow got out of the screen, went into the ether somewhere, and found itself in Ramirez. And I'm thinking, that's a weird way to think. But see, he knew something about this whole tulpa idea, the idea that if you manifest it and you utilize it and think it into existence, it can happen. You think something into existence and it happens. And that's why I worry so much about COVID and not the disease or the virus itself,
but what we're
creating with it.
And all they had to do was plant the seed and add the fertilizer.
Yeah. I mean, it was back when Michael Crichton, he did a speech about Chernobyl, and he talked about climate change. And he said that, telling people that they're going to die, being an authoritative figure, telling people they're going to die, eventually people end up dying. Eventually people end up killing each other. Eventually people end up thinking they have no hope and they kill themselves. And I think what Crichton said, and he's dead now, but I think what Crichton, you said Westworld, of course, he came up with that. I think that what Crichton said was prophetic, because I do believe what Crichton said is true. If you're pointing the bone, which is what witch doctors do, I remember curanderos when I was in South America would say, pointing the bone would mean that you point out someone, you say to them, you're cursed, you're going to die. Yeah. And immediately what they do is they starve themselves to death. Yeah. They don't feel they have anything to live for.
It's the white elephant.
Yeah.
There's the pink elephant.
Well, it's just the idea that...
But the point is when you tell somebody not to think about something, or you say something, it's planted the seed and it doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm. It's a mind worm.
Yes.
And so there's another virus other than COVID. I mean, COVID now is endemic. We gotta admit now that it's endemic. Yeah. They won't do that, and it's because they have so much power not declaring it endemic. But it's endemic, guys. I mean, we're going to say it right here. COVID-19 is endemic. Delta variants, Lambda variants. The only reason why they're calling them that is because they're scary. It's meaning that it's endemic now. It's like the flu. Yeah. It's like something else that we have to be protective of, and we don't have to go overboard here, but we do. And but everybody's dying. Well, everybody dies.
Us to live in fear. We all die.
Yeah, memento mori, people.
All die.
And I don't want to sound callous about it, but because like I said, I don't want to die.
No,
you don't want to die.
No, but we're gonna.
Yeah, and it sucks.
At some point.
Yeah, but we can't be afraid to live. We don't have risk-free lives. It's just everything we do. There's a risk.
Yes.
Every time we make a decision, there's a risk. The minute we got up off of our hands and knees when we were babies and decided that we were going to control fall, meaning walk, because that's all it is.
Yeah.
You're controlling your falling. Your legs are holding you up from falling. And I just don't think people, that's so rudimentary that I think people are just like, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the power of thought.
It starts to limit the imagination, which is really, really crucial. I mean, I like to take the seatbelt, for instance. Everybody's like, well, you wear a seatbelt and that's been regulated, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have the choice of whether or not I want to fly through my windshield or not.
Yeah.
And then everybody would have the argument, well, if you fly through your windshield, you're not in control of your vehicle and you're going to hit this vehicle. And well, that's part of the risk of living. So if I choose to not wear a helmet when I ride my bike or a motorcycle, or if I choose not to wear a seatbelt, that should be my choice. It never should have been regulated. I could see under 18, fine. Right. But once you hit that adulthood, there should not be a regulation about seatbelts.
Well, it's like one of those devices that one thing carries another thing, carries another thing. They call it a rube. I don't remember what they call it. It's that device where a cannonball hits the anvil hits this, starts the fire, blah, 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 blah.
It's the dominoes.
And it's a domino effect, the butterfly effect. Everything you do has a reason and a purpose. And, to sit there and just overthink it.
Yeah.
Or I read something today that people who are unvaccinated are contributing to what they said, the Holocaust. The Holocaust of what? I mean, those types of words are very, very, they're magic words.
They're
Holocaust.
magic. They trigger. And, I'm also, this sounds a little odd, but we have a dictionary at home, a very old one, because we're starting to see that words are being redefined. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have something tangible in paper, manifested to prove these things, there won't be any proof. Like I look at the Kindle. What is a Kindle? It's fire. That's your modern day book burning. That's going to happen at some point. Everything that's going out there digitally is vulnerable to the Kindling. And so anything that's in form right now or in book form is important. And we should all be looking at our dictionaries because we're getting triggered by words without having a common agreement on what that word means anymore. But that's part of the dismantling of our construct.
The internet does that, though. I mean, I always tell people my personality on the internet is I'm a total dick on the internet. And the reason why is because I use words and phrases that I would normally say right here. And people say, well, Clyde doesn't seem to be the type of guy that is a dick. He's a nice guy. But on the internet, he sounds like a total ass clown. It's because, people interpret how you're posting things on the internet unless you use emojis, which I equivalent to baby talk. Seriously. The emoji is our excuse to do baby talk.
Well, that's the new symbol.
Everything you have to say is LOL.
I know.
Everything you have to say is a smile.
That's the new symbol.
It's all you have to basically put those in there so people don't think you're being a dick. And I'm like going, okay, it's like I have to put an emoji in there to make sure people aren't thinking that I'm being a total jerk.
The freaking smiley face wasn't in one of the
See, another idea of symbolism.
Well, yeah,
symbols respond. You respond to symbols. You don't respond to words. I mean, I could tell you I love you.
Yeah,
but I could say it another way.
Just do it quicker with a symbol.
Yeah, with a symbol, a heart, and it's right there.
So speaking of symbols, wasn't there a killer that used to use the little smiley faces on everything?
The smiley face killer.
Okay, smiley face killer.
Well, what about the Zodiac killer? The circle with the cross.
Yeah, but the smiley face is like the first emoji. And we saw that in American Horror Story. That was actually a really good episode. Very timely right now.
Yeah.
Very, very good. But the whole emoji thing, I mean, those will and are taking on their own life.
Yeah.
Like if people can imagine when we start to, once you can create a container or a symbol, then you fill that container with your thoughts and your use and your intention, and it becomes a life form of its own.
Okay, let me give you an example.
We're probably talking about a whole new mythology being created with
emojis.
emojis.
Are you into emojis? Do you know emoji definitions?
If
I say if I say, I don't want to embarrass you. If I say eggplant, what do you think about, Kristie?
I think of a purple penis. Is that what I'm supposed to think?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I don't have to know emojis to know that, but it's a
that's
symbol.
true.
Yeah, it's phallus.
If you put a purple penis or an eggplant into an emoji, people immediately go, oh, he wants sex, or she wants sex with a purple penis. An eggplant is not an eggplant anymore; it's a purple penis.
Exactly. Because
remember that old thing that George Carlin used to say. He said, "A cigar is just a cigar unless it's a huge dick."
Well, yeah, Clinton changed that.
That's exactly the way it is.
Well, isn't everything though really a receiver or a sender?
Yeah,
everything is a penis or a vajayjay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean,
we just proved our point right there. We must just end the show.
It goes back to the basics.
You know, we're getting kind of dirty here. Purple penises aside, you know. Anyway,
but I would love to talk about angles a little bit because I'm really mystified with angles. I got kind of hung up, and I think it was Tracy Twyman who had one, because I did find eventually something she had wrote mentioning this, but it was haunting me, the idea that things come through angles, things come through openings, things come from corners. And what are corners? It's an intersection. Intersections, we know, are intersections and ley lines, and you got your point of convergence. So angles are really important, and there's different variances of angles. And so I'm starting to think about angels more as angles and the different personalities that come from the angles. And then if you think about how we're born and we have a birth chart, and those stars are all aligned, if we start looking at those differently, what we're really looking at is we're coming through angles. And those angles define our basic principal personalities. And are that not the same as angels or demons?
Right.
And so it makes you start to think a little bit differently about the kind of energy that comes through the different degrees of the angles and angel.
I always remember demons and shadow people usually hang out in corners.
Right. Or, if you've got a place that's dirty, and I always tell people, first thing you got to do if you want to smudge your house, you got to clean your house. You got to clean it, and you got to move stuff around so the energy isn't stagnant, and you got to get to the corners because shit comes through angles.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And I think that's why we cast circles.
Well, that's why circles are protective.
That's right.
One can measure a circle beginning anywhere.
Yeah. And wherever you're standing.
So they call it circular logic.
Yep. And you're the third pillar. That's another thing. What we're dealing with right now is such a polarity. Everything is binary right now. But if we can stand in the middle.
We could talk all day about this. But the music's playing, and that means we got to go. And that was that's the end, isn't it? That is the end.
Oh.
It's the end.
Oh.
We are done for the day.
All right.
Great show. Kristie Williams,
really
thank you so much. Good to see you again. Yes. And thank you for joining us today on Channel Weird. We're going to keep talking, I'm sure.
Where is this camera? Is this the camera?
That's my camera. I don't know where yours is.
There's cameras everywhere.
Yeah, anyway. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.